With us tonight are two key voices in any discussion about our economic future. Central Transportation Commissioner Willie Simmons joins us. He represented District 13 in the Mississippi Delta in the state Senate from 1993 to 2020. And Scott Waller is president and CEO of the Mississippi Economic Council. The group has been advocating for job creation and economic growth since 1949. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Let's get right to the discussion. Scott Waller, you just heard the Lieutenant Governor's comments on the prospects of a recession. Is he right to be worried, and will our business community fare in such an economic downturn if that were to happen?
Well, I think when you think about it from the aspect of small businesses are impacted greatly when there's the type of inflation and the rate of inflation that we're having right now. And I think that's one of the things that we see. We're constantly hearing about that issue because it's costing more to do business. It's costing the consumer more for products, whether it's going out to dinner, whether it's going to the grocery store, whatever the case may be. It's creating that sense of, gosh, it's just taking more to just do the things that we used to do. So that in itself is going to have an impact on our economy, not here just in Mississippi, but across the nation. And it's something that we have to really be thinking about and be prepared for as we go forward.
Commissioner Simmons, your primary focus on the state's transportation network. You called it in the past for substantial upgrades to our roads, bridges, railways, etc. How would a recession impact your agency's ability to pursue those upgrades?
A recession could be very negative on our impact, especially if we don't invest in our infrastructure. The key to any state and or community, if you're going to build your economy, you're going to have to invest in your infrastructure. A good, well-invested infrastructure with the ability to maintain it is going to encourage industry and businesses to come into a community. Also, it help maintain those businesses. I'm very pleased the fact that tonight Scott is here because he and I have worked together in the past with the business community, and the business community has advocated for more investment in our infrastructure. We were very fortunate this year under the leadership of Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker and the legislators and the governor. They gave us additional dollars, along with money that came from the federal government. But those dollars are one-time money for the most part, so we need recurring money that we would certainly like to talk about as we go forward. And
Commissioner, earlier this year, you took part in a Rural Infrastructure Summit. You looked at not only the transportation, but also water, sewage, broadband, and infrastructure. What should state lawmakers do to address these needs next session, which comes in rural and urban communities? What are you looking for to happen?
To invest in it. It's good to rely on the dollars that come from the federal government. As you well know, the federal government under President Biden and Congress sending a lot of money into the state, and that's one of the things that's helped us to maintain the viable economy that we have in the state today. But investing in broadband, our infrastructure system, which they added additional dollars to, and over the next 5 years, we, the Department of Transportation, is going to get about $962 million. Billions of dollars are going to be spent, hopefully, in the state of Mississippi on broadband. When you combine that infrastructure system with broadband, our infrastructure, and our water and sewage that the federal government is putting in, if we, the state, step up to the plate and put dollars into it, we're going to have a well-financed institution where we can properly build capacity highways and maintain the existing highway system that we have.
And Scott, from the infrastructure, from the commercial point of view, what needs to happen and what needs to be done?
I think the biggest thing, and the Commissioner touched on, is the investment that's being made into the infrastructure. And one of the things that MEC worked on, and this was when the Commissioner was actually the Chairman of Transportation in the Senate, we were working on trying to get additional dollars into our roads and bridges primarily. And we've seen that number increase greatly. He mentioned the Infrastructure and Jobs Act dollars that are coming in the state. It was very exciting to see the legislature make a commitment of $40 million of matching funds, which is actually a 5-year commitment. That each year, if we put that $40 million into it as new money from the state, it will match money from federal government, which will mean a $1.12 billion investment of new monies into our road and bridge system. Add on top of that the dollars that have been made available for broadband expansion, the dollars that are being dedicated for actual water and sewer infrastructure. I think there's going to be money available to help us get to the point of really seeing a big difference as we go forward. So it's been a lot of work. It's been a long time coming, but we're really starting to see the benefits of it today. The biggest concern, though, is we'll go back to inflation. How much of that is going to eat into the cost of us really having, the ability to utilize these new monies in the right way? So we're hoping that that doesn't hurt us too bad, and we're able to continue to really see the improvements to our road and bridges. And then the other thing that I want to compliment, particularly the Department of Transportation, has really focused, a portion of the lottery funding that we get in taxes, and the first $80 million goes to the Department of Transportation, and they dedicated that to addressing two-lane highways across the state. And I think that is a big need that we're starting to see the impact of as well. So we're headed in the right direction. Things are looking well. We just got to stay on track.
We talked earlier a bit about labor participation, just over 55% of Mississippi at last report, the nation's lowest rate. On the other hand, there are a lot of stable, good-paying jobs in the state that are not being filled. Scott, what are your thoughts on our labor picture here in Mississippi?
Well,
right now?
I have to agree with the Lieutenant Governor's statement that number is way too low. We've got to focus on raising our labor participation rate. But one of the things that I see happening is that we're making real progress. In 2015, MEC, along with the Mississippi Economic Development Council, produced a competitiveness study looking at what we needed to do to improve workforce development in the state. And while there were pockets of really excellence happening in the workforce development arena, it was just not coordinated in a way that it needed to be. So we had pushed for the development of the Office of Workforce Development, which was put in place in the 2020 session. It's now been staffed and working, branded as Accelerate Mississippi. And we see this as really the starting point for improving workforce development, not only opportunities for our companies, but opportunities for our citizens to get the training necessary for jobs that are available, that are paying a much higher wage than what most people have thought of the wage in Mississippi has been for years. I think even the Lieutenant Governor alluded to the fact that wages are much higher as a result of all of the things that are happening. We have an opportunity to really address some of the past challenges by a coordinated, concerted effort to put workforce training opportunities out there for all of our citizens, and it will make a long-term difference.
Commissioner, the Mississippi Delta region remains one of the poorest. You live in the Delta. You've been representing the Delta in the Senate. I know that many people there want to get more prosperous jobs in the Delta. So what makes it so difficult to get those jobs there?
Part of it is the lack of investment in the past in infrastructure. And as I indicated earlier, if you build it, they'll come. That applies to business and industry. If you don't invest in your infrastructure, then you have a tendency to drive the business community as well as tourists away, because when people key in, what's the best direction to get to Cleveland, Mississippi, to the Grand Museum, or wherever it is that they're going, their traffic is going to take them to the best highway possible. So when you take that prior investment away from a community, it takes away from that. What we're focusing on as commissioners, I'm very pleased with the fact that we have 3 commissioners, 2 Republicans, I, a Democrat, but we work across party lines. We don't get into speaking and talking about what's best for investment in the way of infrastructure based upon the political party that you're a part of. We work for the state of Mississippi and the citizens to make sure that we are investing.
We're going to continue our conversation right after this break.